All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's tournament strategy show where we are going to look back at last night's slate, see what went well, what didn't go as well, and then we'll go game by game, talk through guys who are standing out pretty early for me, some guys that I don't like as much. Pretty interesting slate in general. But yeah, we'll get to it. What's up, Tattoo? Yeah. Maybe I'll get into the NHL streets one day. For sports betting, I'm already there thanks to you. But for DFS, man, that's a lot to keep up with. NBA is a lot already. Thomas, Win the Millie. What's up, guys? Let's look at last night. Last night was not a great night for me, which is not the trend I like to have going. But it's weird because looking back, we were on so many of these guys. It just means that we had too much bad, not enough of the good stuff. Devin Booker was on the thumbnail yesterday. Ownership was a little off with him. It was looking like he was going to be 10% owned. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe we had like a 20% min on Devin Booker trying to match the field. So we were significantly over the field on him. Took a shot on KD. That didn't go as well. But Devin Booker was the guy, and that went as expected against the Spurs. That wasn't a surprise. Dante DiVincenzo is another guy we talked about on this show. Another guy I forced exposure to. Another guy that went off. Corey Kispert, we talked about on the pre-lock show. We talked about actually on this show. Corey Kispert being a really good play, especially if Denny Avdia got ruled out. We got the Avdia news a little late, and so that's why everyone didn't really flock to Kispert, but it made total sense. So that wasn't really a surprise, even though he was crazy low owned, but it was a spot that was logical. Josh Hart was someone that I didn't force exposure to. He showed up in like 2 to 3% of my lines, but I definitely needed more Hart last night. Daniel Gafford, we've been on this train for a while. We forced exposure to Gafford last night. He did the same thing he continues to do once again. Marcus Sasser, we forced exposure to. Dorian Finney-Smith was borderline a core play last night, not because I wanted it. It's just the way it happened. And then Amin Thompson didn't crush, just didn't show up enough for me. So it's always weird looking back, seeing that we were on pretty much all of these guys, just didn't get the right combination, which happens sometimes, but at least there wasn't anyone that we really missed too much, unless I'm making stuff up there. All right, let's get into today's slate. We have a nice 4-gamer, so we can take it a little slow, a little easy, but these games aren't the sexiest, I'll be honest with you. For the Warriors tonight, Tracy Jackson Davis is questionable. I know in that last game, Curry didn't see as much run as we would have liked for him to have seen because they're trying to give him a little bit of rest for... I mean, I guess Curry has played a lot this season in comparison to the other guys on this team, but these guys need to win. Like, y'all need to play these guys more. Curry's only 8,600. There's upside here. He's someone that if the slate started right now, he wouldn't show up in my lines. But I'm not mad about Curry. I just hate the Warriors in general when they're pretty healthy. If Tracy Jackson Davis gets ruled out, that solidifies Draymond Green a bit more, makes Kuminga a little bit more viable. But the matchup against the Heat is not one I'm excited about. If I'm taking a shot here, it's either going to be with Tracy Jackson Davis if he plays, or Curry, just because he has a little bit of upside, even though not excited about it. And it would only be Curry if he's low owned. If he's seeing 15% ownership or more, I'm okay passing on that. This is also the lowest total game on the slate. So that's also why this is just not a game environment I'm trying to force exposure to. Exactly. Skipping this game is not the wrong way of doing it, but still worth looking just to make sure we're not missing anyone. For the Heat, though, this team could be more interesting depending on injury news. Jaime is questionable. Caleb Martin is questionable. Kevin Love is questionable. Kevin Love hasn't been playing too much here lately, but his presence is felt when he plays for this team. And so I would be even less excited to play some of the Warriors if Kevin Love plays tonight. From a DFS standpoint, I'm not overly excited about his role on this team. I wouldn't want very much exposure, if any, to Love tonight, just because of how insecure those minutes are right now. And then Caleb Martin being questionable is huge. Jaime being questionable is huge. It could be Nikola Jovic night, just with those two guys missing potentially, his role and minutes will go up. He's already a decent usage, decent points per minute guy. So my interest in Jovic is really the main guy I'm looking at. Jimmy Butler is showing up a little bit in some of my early runs. Not a focal point for me, but I'm comfortable with him showing up because I'm not overly concerned about the Warriors from a defensive standpoint. And then Bam Adebayo is the guy I've been going back and forth on all day. I expect him to be relatively low owned. I'm not concerned about the matchup against the Warriors. They have improved a lot over the last few weeks, months as we get closer towards the playoffs. You definitely see their effort on defense is being felt just around the league. But in general, I'm pretty neutral on the Warriors, but I think Bam could be a little sneaky here. I'm hoping he doesn't see too much ownership. Potential leverage play here if he's not looking too chalky, but I don't want to forget about Bam tonight, especially if Jimmy Butler already showing up. The Lakers are the team that we're building around tonight. It's just that simple. Just already set it in stone. You need to have at least 2 to 3 Lakers probably in each of your lines, if not more. For the Lakers tonight, they're missing the one and only LeBron James. We know how much LeBron does for this team. It benefits absolutely everybody else on the Lakers, and it makes them viable plays when typically we don't have to worry about them too much. D'Angelo Russell was not on the injury report. Anthony Davis is listed as probable. So the main thing here is Anthony Davis is the stud for me tonight. Not overthinking that. The Bucks have improved defensively over the last few games. Not enough to handle Anthony Davis. They're giving up the 16th most fantasy points to versatile bigs right now. Pretty league average, league neutral. But Anthony Davis can beat up on a team like the Bucks, who just don't have the best front court defense. I do typically like to go out of my way to play AD in soft matchups, but this is one of those matchups that I think are softer than they might appear on paper. And so without LeBron, play AD, long story short. D'Angelo Russell at 7,200 is too cheap. With LeBron James out, he sees a massive increase in usage, and we've seen it time and time again. He's someone that you want to have in your lines. D'Lo and AD are locks for me right now. I don't think I'm doing 20 lines tonight. I'm going to 20 max. I don't expect to actually have 100% of them by the time we get to the pre-lock show, but I'm not against it. Reeves is fine. We've seen him have some strong performances, especially when LeBron James is out. His role is a bit more defined on this team with LeBron James out. But I'm not as excited about Reeves as I am with D'Lo and AD. D'Lo and AD, I will tell the DS to make sure I'm over the field on them. With Austin Reeves, just however much I get is fine. Spencer Dinwiddie at 4,600 is a little too cheap, assuming he starts here. I think he's a little too cheap. At 4,600 without LeBron James, he sees an increasing usage. He's playing plenty of minutes. I like his role here. And then Rui Hachimura, we have to consider his price tag isn't as cheap as we usually have him at when LeBron James is out. So Rui is more of just a viable Laker for me, not a must-have Laker. But I do want him to probably show up around 10 to 15%. And I feel the same way about Spencer. That could change based on ownership, but at least as long as I have some exposure to these guys, I'll be comfortable. Taurean Prince is just a viable 4K player, not someone to get excited about. But it's okay if he shows up in 1 to 2 of your lines. But yeah, Lakers are a team I'm looking to build around. Long story short, just play them. Let's see. Draymond is due for some drama. Don't toss that out there, man. As soon as we start talking about Draymond, he does some crazy shit. I saw something on Twitter. I don't know if it was real or not, but apparently his son got in a fight with another NBA player's son in a game. I'm just like, Draymond, man, you gotta get your life together. Allen, I won like $50 and 30-something dollars last week, but I hit a drought the last couple of days. I don't play NBA DFS on Sunday, and Friday was a good night, but I'm feeling it, man. Last night sucked. It was not fun. Jared, right there with you, man. Last night was just brutal. Siakam went down the hole with no problem against the Lakers. So what will Giannis do? Good question. Good question. With Giannis, he's such a frustrating player from a DFS standpoint because I'm sure it's not actually this way, and I'm sure there's game plans that teams prepare for. But I really just feel like when it comes to Giannis, it's just does he want to destroy the other team that night, or is he okay being a little bit more passive? Because I personally don't believe there's very many NBA teams that can actually stop him when he just wants to dominate that game. What's up, fam? Rodney, hope you're doing all right. Hacky is power forward and center eligible on DK. Love it. Love him at power forward if you can swing it. It shouldn't be that hard. All right, for the Bucks tonight, they are looking pretty healthy for the most part, which makes them a team that's a little bit not very exciting to play from a DFS standpoint. You're really just we're paying a premium for the vast majority of these guys. Everyone is priced appropriately. We're not getting a discount here. Instead, I'm really focusing on the studs. Like we talked about, Giannis can destroy any team he wants to on any given night. The matchup against the Lakers, again, pretty league average, not a team I'm afraid of. If Giannis wants to, he can break the slate tonight. So he's someone I definitely want to have exposure to. From a matchup standpoint, Damian Lillard is really the guy who benefits the most here. Lakers are giving up the fifth most points to combo guards, fifth most fantasy points to combo guards. We've been picking on the Lakers with guards all season with a good amount of success. I want to keep that going. 8,900, at least he's not in the 9K range like he has been for the last couple of games. So I'm willing to go back to him here. But I never feel great playing Damian Lillard ever since he joined the Bucks. It's just something I haven't made a habit out of. But both of these guys are in really good spots, can be explosive. Second highest total on the slate. Second highest total game on the slate. And I want exposure to the studs here. The other pieces I'm not excited about. For the Thunder, they have a tough matchup going up against the Pelicans. Rodney said, on days when the slate is not so good, it's best to play double ups or cash games. I'll be honest with you, Rodney. I learned not too long ago, but a decent amount of time ago, some of my best wins were on slates I hated. And then slates I love, I have some of my worst nights. I realize it really doesn't matter if I like a slate or not. I just have to keep doing what I do, and usually it ends up working out for me. Nights, would they give the starters less minutes to wait for the playoffs? It depends. You see a lot of teams treat things a little bit differently depending on who their coach are or is. Some teams, they want to keep them in basketball shape and they just play them their usual run. But if there's a blowout, they'll take them out a little bit earlier than you see before. Other teams, they really just cut it short as soon as a game looks pretty obvious. But it's one of those things, especially as we get closer and closer to the end of the season. I will still play players that have nothing to play for in DFS, but I prioritize players who are on teams fighting for a playoff spot or fighting for a certain seed, things of that sort. Teams who have things to play for are just guys I'm willing to prioritize, but I'm not going to not play players in good spots because I'm worried they'll get less minutes, because that's probably going to burn you more often than it will help you. We'll get there here soon. Yeah, agreed. I'm right there with you, man. You're speaking facts. We're on the same page. Yeah. You know, the Wizards are one of those teams too that you would say, "Hey, why are they still going to win games?" But they put forth a decent effort last night. So for the Thunder tonight, they are healthy. Lou Dort was not on the injury report, so assuming he's going to play again today. Tough thing here is they're going up against the Pelicans, who have been pretty stout from a defensive perspective. Just not a team I like to pick on too much. Hard for me to get overly excited about any of the Thunder, which is a little weird for me because I usually like to force exposure to these guys. But Sim Model had some interest in Chet. I still just don't like the matchup. SGA, as long as he's relatively low owned, ideally he'll fall somewhere between 0 and 10%. I'll be willing to match the field on him. Maybe 15%. I'll put a 15% min on him. but I'm not going above 20% on SGA tonight in a tough matchup. I'm okay with some exposure, but it's hard to prioritize him. We have guys like AD, Giannis, Lillard, Steph, who are all in okay matchups or good or just good matchups. The other side of this game, just like I when I need money said, Pelicans are the side of this game I want to focus on. Zion and I just haven't been on the same page this season. He's been going off, and I am a little late to the party. But once again, I'm not looking to force Zion in at 9K. I think he's priced pretty appropriately. He still has a little bit of upside here. He's had multiple 50-plus point performances. Wouldn't shock me if we see it again in this spot. We know the Thunder are not a good defensive team. They're giving up the 10th most fantasy points to versatile bigs, which I'll put Zion Williamson into that category. He's a very viable play in a very good spot, but I'm just not going to force him in. And he's not showing up for me in my early runs. Would love to see him show up at least a decent amount or a little bit, but I have other guys I'm willing to prioritize. CJ McCollum, matchup against the Thunder, not really ideal. Let me see what the sim model thinks about him at 7,300. He didn't stand out for me earlier today. I still have a bit more interest in him. Yeah. Yeah, CJ is someone that I definitely do want exposure to. He's not blatantly obvious. Like, if you look at the sim model, D'Angelo Russell is a clear and obvious play today, and it's hard to prioritize D'Lo over CJ, or it's hard to prioritize CJ over D'Lo. D'Angelo Russell is definitely a better play today than CJ McCollum, but still, with Brandon Ingram out, CJ still being below 8K, I like taking shots on him here in a matchup that's not a shutdown defense or anything like that. Najee Marshall's been great since CJ's been ruled out. Want some exposure to him at 4,300 when we don't have that much value on this slate so far. Trey Murphy is fine. He's priced appropriately. 6,400 is pretty much exactly where he should be. Herb Jones, same situation, same story. If they showed up by themselves, I would be comfortable with it, but I don't care enough about them to force the issue and force them in, but they're fine plays. Larry Nance Jr. and Jose Alvarado are both showing up by themselves. Jose is like your 4K player, sees decent minutes, decent points per minute, has a usage rate. Not someone that you want to start your lines with, but he makes logical sense on a slate where we don't have that much value. He's showing up a lot for me right now, around 35%. If we get more value as we go throughout the slate, I do expect that to go down a good bit. And then Larry Nance Jr. is pretty similar. I like Larry Nance a bit less just because he's only center eligible, and there's some centers in some pretty good spots. And then we have to talk about Joe Val. Giannis Valanciunas at 4,900. His price tag is finally low enough where I'm a little bit more willing to take a shot, take a risk on playing him again. We still haven't really seen him see more than 20, 21 minutes in a while, really since the start of March. In the vast majority of these games, he's playing 14, 18, 16 minutes. Last game against Detroit, 19 minutes. We're just not seeing a lot of minutes from Joe Val. Possible they're saving him for the playoffs. That wouldn't shock me. But at 4,900, that this price tag makes him a bit more viable. He did disappoint us a lot against Detroit. He also disappointed us a lot at this price tag against Miami. So he's not a lock. But in just my early runs, he's projected high enough where he's showing up in about 65% of my lines. I do expect that to lower as we go throughout the slate. But again, this is a game I'm not trying to avoid ownership to. So I do like to trust the DS a good bit. But I'll probably put like a 50% exposure maximum if he keeps showing up to this extent. And if he's not that chalky or on this slate, we'll have to see where ownership falls. Mavs are on, yeah. Oh, I missed a lot. I'm sorry, guys. Dort lock with Williams. Yeah, that wouldn't shock me. Yeah, SGA is just in a tough spot. It's rare where I don't feel like I need to be over the field on SGA, but here I just want to sprinkle. I don't need to cover. Josiah boost him assists will be on tonight. Okay, you think Dort is the guy? Maybe. I'll look into it. NBA has been crazy hard for me. Hit recently. Been playing single entry. Might go for a 20 max. Yeah, I'm going to 20 max tonight, but that's just me. Single entry is always tough. Like, I used to play single entry a lot more. I had some success, but not long term enough for me to keep playing it. I'm neutral on Nance, and Joval is sneaky. Yep, I'm right there with you. Joval, 28 minutes is all I want, nothing more. Yeah, if he could just, even 25 minutes, I'll be happy if he gets into the 20-minute range, because he's been seeing below 20 a decent amount the last few games. Yeah, CJ definitely a boost. Dort I'll need to look a little bit closer at, but I don't hate. If I was 150ing on a 4-game slate, taking shots on a guy like Dort makes a lot of sense. For me, 20 maxing though, I have to be a little bit more choosy, a little bit more picky. But yeah, I like the Pelicans. For the Mavs tonight, I'm going to play Luka Doncic. I don't care what his ownership is. I'm going to match the field on him. It's that simple. Don't really plan on being over the field, but I will. I just play Luka Doncic on every slate. It's that simple. Daniel Gafford, we hit on yesterday. We hit on a couple slates ago. This is close to where I want to get off the ship. I don't really want to keep playing Gafford as his price tag continues to increase. 5K, it was fun. 4K, it was great. 6K, starting to think about this a bit more. Thankfully, both of these teams are on the back end of a back-to-back. Mavs played last night, so it does make me feel a little bit better about the matchup and things of that sort. But typically for these Mavs, I really only like to focus on Luka. Matchup against Sabonis is right now it's a sim model play, and I can just show y'all. We'll pull up 6K, Daniel Gafford, 8.4% chance of hitting 8x, and there's no one else close to him. So I trust the sim model. I'm going to ride the wave. I'm going to keep the like on him. Ideally, we'll at least match field weight, but he's not someone I'm going to have as like a core play or anything like that. It's just need a little bit of a sprinkle here. This is the highest total game on the slate with a really close spread. So, and again, it's a 4-game slate. A lot of these guys are going to look a little gross. I'm okay forcing some exposure here. Yeah, that's the tough part is the matchup. Sabonis should absolutely destroy Gafford tonight. You are not wrong. Foul trouble is a concern there too. Washington boost. I know it's an ugly play, but those are the ones that win. Yeah, PJ Washington didn't stand out for me too much. He is projecting well. And again, this is the highest total game on the slate. Let's see if he shows up a bit naturally. Not so far for me, but I'll look a little bit closer at it. I have a soft spot for PJ, but I just wish he was a bit cheaper. If Gafford gets in the foul trouble, though, going up against Sabonis, it wouldn't shock me if PJ Washington goes off in that situation. But I think there are some scenarios / scripts that would need to happen for PJ to really go off. Like with Cam Thomas going out. Yeah, that Cam Thomas news, did not see that one coming. That did shake up a lot, too. So, yeah, again, Luka's the priority for me tonight. I'm going to have some Gafford exposure. Again, I don't feel great about it, but I'm really just trusting the sim model on Gafford. That's helped me a lot throughout the year, so I'm okay with that. And then PJ Washington, win the millie. I think he might be onto something there that could be a little sneaky. I still don't love the price tag, but I like this game environment enough to consider taking shots on a lot of the guys on the Mavericks and Kings tonight. Speaking of the Kings, I've gotten to the point where I don't love playing Sabonis on the back end of a back-to-back. He didn't go off last night. Last night was a Fox night, but the spot is great and the matchup is solid. We've been picking on the Mavs for years now with bigs. At this point, they've improved with Daniel Gafford, so it's no longer like the super soft matchup it was earlier this season or last year. But Sabonis is just built different. He's built different. He played 33 minutes last night, had 47 DK points against Philadelphia. That was disappointing to see because the matchup was really soft. Obviously, it didn't impact us for DFS because it wasn't on the main slate. I'm willing, again, ownership will impact a lot of what I do. It always impacts a lot of what I do. But if Sabonis is a little sneaky tonight, I still do think the front court for the Mavs is one you can pick on. It wouldn't shock me if he dominates the Mavs in this spot. But if he's too chalky, Sabonis, and by too chalky, if he's like 35, 40% owned, which I don't think will be the case because of Anthony Davis, I think Sabonis will probably end up being lower owned than he should be because of how many people are going to play AD tonight. So that's really the thought process here. I think Sabonis is a decent pivot to AD. And so I'm hoping that low ownership could make him sneaky. So worth keeping an eye out for. We'll see what happens when we get to the pre-lock show. Pre-lock show will be at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. That's when myself and Brandon will be on. We'll show how we're actually using the optimizer today. We'll show all the mins, the maxes, the changes we make, our exposure, all of it, just so you can just see what our process typically looks like. If you're interested in that, link is in the description. Promo code BOB if you want a 10% discount. If not, that's okay too. Nice. Okay, yeah. Glad we're on the same page. Not what did the Fox say? Oh no, now I definitely am not playing Fox. No, I'm kidding. Fox is purely going to be an ownership play for me. I'll probably end up just matching the field on him. I don't have a strong stance on him here. You guys know, I just hate playing guys who had a good game the night before. Going heavy on Luka, not a bad approach. Highest game total on the slate. Run back with Fox. I'll have some exposure. Sabonis really is like Jokic light. That is exactly how I think of him. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Sabonis is on my radar depending on ownership. I'll probably at least match the field on Fox. Keegan Murray, someone I'm looking at as a potential leverage play. We'll have to wait and see where ownership falls there. Keon Ellis, was he showing up on the sim model? Yeah, he was. That's why his name stood out to me. I still prefer Najee Marshall here significantly more than Keon Ellis, but you could do worse. Harrison Barnes is fine. I'm not trying to play Sasha. Really, the only guys I'm looking at here are Sabonis, Fox, Murray, because it's the highest total game on the slate. If the other guys for the Kings show up, that's fine. But for as of right now, I'm really just seeing who I want outside of Sasha. I'll have to take him out later. But yeah, it's really Sabonis, Fox. Monk's not showing up too much for me, and Murray. Yeah, high-owned Monk I never really fuck with too much. We'll see. Did we update ownership yet? No, but if he's like seeing 30, 40 plus ownership, don't really want to go above that in my 20 max lines tonight. But anyway, y'all, that's the slate. It's a pretty short, sweet 4-gamer. I'm hoping we get a little bit of injury news to spice the slate up a little bit. Right now, it's looking a little too obvious for what everyone should do. And by that, I just mean everyone just needs to play the Lakers tonight. But hopefully we get some more news to balance everything out. So it's not too much chalk, but there's some pivots in like the Heat, the Warriors, Pelicans. Not sure about Mavs Kings, what that ownership will look like yet, but we have some options. Anyway, I'll see y'all later. Stay safe. See you on the pre-lock show, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, guys.